Great weapon here, guys. One that you want to pick up. A pair in action, it's taking the full spotlight, even more so that they made it another solar season. Solar Fulmination's wild, the solar snipers are wild. That's where a lot are going to be going from now on. But don't let Corrasion fall through the cracks. It comes in as an arc heavy burst pulse rifle. And really quick about the heavy burst pulses. This information is going to be kept in mind as we go through the review. Another shout out to Mossy Max, and that's at Mossy_Max. The 2 burst pulses are the best at minor DPS. And when you look at the chart, it's divided into a couple categories. Just average DPS, that's just an average reload with an average magazine, and then going a little bit more all in, like 100 reload with a scalar, but in simple terms, it hits hard. These are really, really good, and they take primary ammo. The Heal Clip Chaos Reshape Nullify is a monster because of this. The 35% more damage is even more noticeable, and on this, you can get something similar. So that's why I want to give some special attention to Corrasion. It's not just another arc pulse, another weapon with Voltshot, so definitely don't overlook it. And the goal here today is to talk about some of the perks that work on it. There's a lot of little things, like even its starting ammo comes into play. But before we get in depth, a huge shout out to the sponsor of today's video, Factor. My wife and I love to cook and eat dinner together, but no matter how hard we try, we just can't seem to make it happen every day, especially with the busy summer ahead. Factor helps us take the stress out of meal planning and sets up our week for success. We can skip the grocery stores, the prep work, cooking fatigue, and instead, we get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to our door. Every fresh, never frozen meal is ready in under just 2 minutes, so we can quickly get back to our next task. We get to choose from a weekly menu of 35 options, including popular options like Calorie Smart, Keto, Protein Plus, or Vegan and Veggie. Factor also offers more than 60 add-ons every week, like breakfast, on-the-go lunch, snacks, and beverage to help us better manage our busy schedules. So skip the overpriced takeout trap. Factor is cheaper, and it's really good. Way better for you. And with my link down below at the top of the description, you can get 50% off of your first Factor box and 20% off of your next month of orders. That's 50% off the first box and 20% off the next 4 boxes. And again, that's through the link at the top of the description or scanning the QR code at the top of the screen. And thank you to Factor for sponsoring today's video. I do have it crafted. There's a lot to talk about today. I love the origin trait in PvE. After 3 kills on miners, 3 rapid kills, you drop a pull of radial area fluid. In PvP, it's 2 kills, and the higher the enemy type, like it could be a yellow bar, it's going to drop sooner. This origin trait's enhanced by the artifact perk Logic Reductor, deals more damage to Vex, and the pulls last longer on the ground once you make them. And the third, Air Trigger, Perfect Float, Pugilist, Eddy Current, Enlightened Action, Perpetual Motion, High Impact Reserves. In the final column, High Ground, Eye of the Storm, Frenzy, Swashbuckler, Voltshot, One for All, Focus Fury, and these can be enhanced. There's so many little things about this weapon. I'm going to give you some things to think about. There's going to be a lot to think about. There's some things to consider out of the gate, like, do you want this for arc? Amplified specifically. What do you want to do with it? Do you want to focus on Voltshot? And if you go that route, do you want to have a good reload? Do you want it to do more damage? So let's start there with Voltshot. With how they designed this weapon, they give you various routes, and it's kind of cool when you break it down. Voltshot's a top pick for obvious reasons, but even more so because these 2 bursts are just ad slayers. Very easy to get through them with this heavy burst class, and then Voltshot's just dealing with more of them. And you can also jolt a larger target, do more damage to them with other things. So if you're on Arc, you have Amplified, you have that built into the kit, or Prismatic, and you see the base reload, but the Amplified reload just pairs right with Voltshot. Amplified just helps any weapon, really. Helps the handling, the reload, just helps everything a ton. So Voltshot on this is a couple ways you do go. One is the fast reload route. And while you do that, you get jolt on targets faster, more often. It's great. So to do that, in the third, we have a lot of perks. We have Perpetual Motion to help that. Grants plus 20 reload, plus some handling and stability. Enlightened Action, granting to the reload stat 15, 30, 50 stat points just by simply landing shots. The more shots you land, the faster the reload. And then we have Eddy Current. It got a buff, and Eddy Current Voltshot is a perfect pairing. They felt that it was slow, so it now takes 1.5 seconds of sprinting to activate instead of 3 seconds. Also provides a bonus to handling and a 5% scalar on each stat at base. Being amplified will immediately activate the perk at its maximum effectiveness, so that last part isn't working. You could be amplified, but Eddy Current goes away, meaning you have to sprint to get it back. Hopefully in the future they get this fixed. It's a big part of it. So after that 1.5 second sprint, you get plus 20 reload, which that kind of checks what Perpetual Motion does. You get a reload scalar, so it's better than what Perpetual Motion gives. I believe that it's plus 20 handling and also a handling scalar, so way more snappy, better reload. If you're amplified, it gets plus 60 reload. You still have the stuff with the handling, you still have the scalars. I love what they did to this perk. Enhanced makes it better. And when you get it going with amplified, it is fast. Very, very fast. Get it down, Eddy Current reload right into Voltshot. It feels really, really good. And amplified just helps it tremendously. It's like the max stack of what this thing gives. So if you're on an arc subclass, prismatic, if you're going to be amplified anyway, it works very well. Synergistic. But Of course, we need to talk about my new love, air trigger. While airborne, reload speed is increased. I've talked about this before. It's the same scalar as Outlaw. It's the fastest reload in the game. All you have to do is a regular tap jump, a bunny hop. No headshot needed, no kill needed, no need to get amplified. Always the same thing, tap jump and reload. And I put air trigger up against the enhanced eddy current reload while being amplified, and what do you think happened? I was also amplified with air trigger, and they're the same exact reload. One of them requires you to sprint, get amplified, and if you're amplified, you're either using or tied down to certain things, arc sub, maybe with prismatic. A sequence of events goes down for that reload, or, wait for it, tap jump. I feel that eddy current is neat, it works well, it's going to be a lot better when they fix the amplified bug, but I don't take that over air trigger. And if you're on arc and you do get amplified, remember amplified gives a handling scalar too, so that's going to pair with the air trigger reload. And I could use it on void if I want, on strand if I want. I can still have the fast reload into Voltshot, no matter where I am. And again, it matches the absolute extreme best version of eddy current. And sure, that third column is only being used for a reload, no other benefits, but it's the pairing perk. It's Voltshot. I need the reload, so it just works well. I will say that non-amplified air trigger is slightly slower than amplified eddy current, but both of them amplified, they're the same exact thing, and when the amplified isn't there for eddy current, air trigger wins. So these perks that I went over for the third are all about getting jolt on targets quicker through the reload, and it's just flat out more damage output. When you get that reload from eddy current, air trigger, that goes back to the beginning of the video when I was talking about the graph and what I went over with his DPS, it's just flat out more damage output. Aside from reload, there's also a couple other options here. And the third, we have high impact reserves, and it's rare to see it in the third column. Rounds at the end of the magazine deal more damage, and with enhanced, starts slightly earlier in the magazine. We have an 18 round magazine, and this clips with enhanced high impact reserves. The final 8 bullets get the buff. Starts out at around 14.5%, ends at about 25% on the final couple. And that's not bad for a third column perk. But here's what's cool about high impact reserves on this weapon. First, they placed an 18 round magazine on it. Nullify has a starting magazine of 22, Aisha's Care is 20, so this has the lowest starting mag. And this clip has the base reload stat, which is 36. So when you combine the RPM, the starting magazine, at the very end here, I pause. I don't shoot the last bullet. That's because I have alloy mag, more on that in a second. But if you get a kill and keep firing, downing nothing else, go through its full base reload, you still get Voltshot. Just at base, the 18 round mag, the base reload is fast enough that you can point, shoot, empty the mag, reload, and still get Voltshot. Most weapons can't do that with this perk. Like take Nation of Beast right here. It's got 47 reload, 10 round magazine. Get a kill with the first bullet, keep firing just like before. You reload, it's not there. So if your game plan is to just shoot, empty the mag, reload, and keep going every time, you get a lot of traction out of something like this. Because with 18 rounds, its fire rate, first 10 bullets are the same, the final 8 are doing more damage. You get through high impact reserves a ton. You're going to get a kill at some point within that magazine. You're going to have Voltshot ready when you reload. It's pretty neat. And of course, if you're amplified, you have the amplified reload, so it makes this even better. That's going to be an option. It's also Pugilist Voltshot, more melee energy, a lot more. Get kills, reload, jolt, collaterals, it works, and it works great, so that's an option. And in the fourth, other than Voltshot, we have 5 damage perks to choose from. And with those damage perks, a great pairing is high impact reserves because of what we can do with the magazine. Like this one, I have enhanced high impact reserves, enhanced one for all. Hit 3 separate targets, it deals 35% more damage for 11 seconds while it's enhanced. 10 seconds is non-enhanced. That idea, you keep the 18 round mag, you don't do a pin and mag, tack mag, you don't put on a backup mag, just keep the base magazine. You can get amplified or use loaders to make that base reload better, but just point, shoot, dump the mag, and repeat. Damage wise, you get 30% from one for all. Those last 8 bullets are adding more damage, and the final couple bullets deal 3,228, which is 70% more than base. You don't think about anything, you just point at stuff and shoot stuff. But then we have Frenzy high impact reserves. So I changed this role, that enhanced high impact reserves, enhanced one for all, to enhanced Frenzy, because even though it's 15% more damage, the overall output is just better in my opinion, because Frenzy deals 15% more damage, but you also get 100 handling, 100 reload. And when you kind of compare those things, the value of the reload and the handling is greater to me than that extra damage, because this one's even more of a shoot the entire magazine, dump the magazine, reload and go. It is seamless. You get the 50%, then the high impact reserves on those final 8 bullets. You just reload and go again. And why I crafted this and why I considered this is all on that basis that these things hit heavy. They hit hard. The top dog for legendary minor DPS. And all that gets better with reload. So if you're adding 100 reload stat, 100 handling, you have high impact reserves, it just makes a lot of sense. Another option could be Focus Fury. Of the 18 round magazine, 9 have to be critical hits. Then you get 20% more damage for 11 seconds, 12 seconds enhanced. and that can just keep looping. And you could pair that 20% more damage with high impact reserves to do the same type of deal I was talking about with Frenzy or One for All. You could do one of the reload things like Air Trigger or Eddy Current, Perpetual Motion, and Light Action. That's an option. We have a pure melee build, Pugilist Swashbuckler, or do a fast reload with Swashbuckler. 33% more damage after that melee final blow, or just stack up to ×5. We do have High Ground. Just be a little bit higher than your enemies. You immediately go to the ×3 stack, so that's 25% more than Frenzy, more than Focus Fury, but less than Swashbuckler and One for All. And as long as you're getting kills, it keeps the stack up. So it's got a 7-second timer. So with this weapon, there's a couple things to think about. Do you want it for arc? Do you want a fast reload with Voltshot? Do you want a fast reload with a damage perk? Do you want double damage perks? And that's also going to change the barrel mag and masterwork. I'm going to talk about that at the end of the video. But for me, I think the top rolls are Air Trigger Voltshot. That's the one that I'm going to craft or have crafted by the making of the video. Because again, Outlaw on demand with Voltshot, it just works out great. You could do Eddy Current Voltshot. Because the magazine is the way that it is, you could do High Impact Reserves Voltshot. That way you have a little bit more damage as you're getting through the magazine. It's always going to get Voltshot as long as you're spinning the mag from start to finish. Then you have the ad clear. You have all the things that Voltshot gives. You have the double damage perks. High impact reserves, One for All, is really, really good, but the 100 reload, 100 handling with that low magazine, I lean more to high impact reserves Frenzy. It's just more damage output, and it gets through high impact reserves very quickly because the 18 round mag. It's great. You can mess with Swashbuckler, High Ground, Focus Fury if you want. There's a lot of things to think about, and even myself going through it, I was like, okay, if we did this, paired it with that, how does that compare versus this and that? Like there's a lot of give and take, but in the end, I don't think that there is a wrong answer. It's just what you think plays best. And my top two goes to Air Trigger Voltshot, High Impact Reserves Frenzy. For the barrel mag and masterwork, if you go high impact reserves, I do encourage you to stick with the base magazine. The more mag that you have, it kind of scales across it. I'm much rather do better chunks of damage with those 8 bullets than spreading it, adding on 10 more, but that's up to you. Even though these have a high range stat, I talked about it in the Nullify review, they still get fall off a lot closer than you think. Even though it kind of feels like a scout and looks like a scout, they are not. So I would add in range a little bit. And if you're going the high impact reserves route, I actually would go alloy magazine. Reloads faster, the magazine is empty. So you're going to be dumping the mag out. For high impact reserves, you get a reload duration multiplier. On most of mine, I've gone corkscrew rifling, alloy magazine, with the range masterwork. That's 90 range, 37 stability, 38 handling. You could also go fluted barrel, but all that really depends on if you're going with Frenzy, if you're going with Amplified. The main two things I want you to walk away with, it needs a little bit more range than you think that it does. And if you go in high impact reserves, I do encourage alloy magazine because you'll be dumping the mag anyway. It's a great weapon for PvE. These things hit hard. They put in a lot of work. Now for the Crucible, nothing's changed on my end. I don't think that these are very good. Even the Trials one, I just care, that is set up for PvP. I don't really see them used. The 2 burst is unforgiving. If you miss a bullet of the burst, if one of the bullets gets flinched off and you only land 1, it really affects your time to kill. And its base time to kill is a 0.87, 5 crit, 1 body. A lot of things beat that at base, and with damage perks, even One for All, a 35% damage bonus, it brings it down to a 0.8, 3 crit, 2 body, and that's what most damage perks do on this thing, like even kill clip. The damage perks get it to 0.8, which is a lot of weapons base TTK. Same deal with Focus Fury. Tier 10 is 5 crits. Tier 9 and below is 4 crits, 1 body. Both of them 0.8s. If you get High Ground 3, same deal, 5 crit or 4 crit, 1 body. Even adding something like Radiant on top of that, still the same TTK. And how I feel about these 2 bursts, I think that if you're going to do that, I would just use the exotics, because those have actual tangible things at the end of their play loops. Graviton Lance can get a lot of collaterals. You can do a lot of AoE damage in PvP. Revision 0 has the game where you get the sniper rifle bullet. Also, it's a laser beam. These can be too. And I know that some people like them, and I actually do enjoy the shooting experience. They feel fun to use, but they get beat a ton, even when you're 100% accurate, perfect accuracy. If you do want to craft a PvP roll, the base range is 36.7 meters. Its max is 39.95. So you should definitely add some stability in there if you want. Maybe polygonal, stability masterwork. You could even do steady rounds. Even though that negates range a little bit, you can make it up through other routes. But, try to get to 85, 90 range, a little bit more if you want, then throw it into handling or stability. And the third, we have perpetual motion. Just run around with it, get the plus 20 stability and handling and reload. There's perfect float here. Honestly, I just am messing around with the Air Trigger Voltshot roll, because why not? This one isn't really designed for the Crucible, especially compared to the other ones, the other heavy bursts. But your combinations are going to involve, in the third, Air Trigger, perfect float, perpetual motion. And in the final column, Swashbuckler, Frenzy, One for All, Focus Fury. I don't expect too many people to try it out. And if you do, good luck. It's not really built for the Crucible. This is definitely a PvE weapon, and a really, really good one at that. And I had it written down, I forgot to mention it. There's only 4 pulse rifles in the game with Voltshot. Filio Tactic Spiral, some might have missed that or don't have it crafted. There's Oversoul Edict, which is a raid weapon. And then there's this one. And out of all the options, even with Oversoul having Cursed Thrall, like, I think that this is the best pulse rifle just because of how well these do in PvE. So don't overlook it. If you're new here, remember to hit the subscribe button. And if you are subscribed, thank you so much for your support. Let's talk about Corrasion down below. What are some perks that you're liking or some synergies? And what roles do you recommend for it? Let's talk about it down below. Thank you for watching. And until the next one, I am CoolGuy.